Welcome everyone to this presentation on Not Another Email. I'm sure a lot of you are out there saying, I can't wait to hear what this is all about because I'm being inundated since COVID and working from home with emails. We're going to solve that problem for you today. So my name is Ann Blanchard. I am with Arcadis as a senior client program solution specialist. Really what I do is I'm a construction manager. They use digital solutions to help increase productivity with reduced manpowers. I am based out of Phoenix, Arizona, and my partner in crime for this presentation is Alex Butcher.
Good afternoon, everybody. Like Ann mentioned, my name is Alex Butcher. I am based in Atlanta, Georgia, and I am a senior implementation consultant here at Autodesk. My role is really focused around consulting, training, helping our customers actually get the value out of the solutions that they're paying for. Thanks for everybody for being here.
Awesome. So let's kick off this presentation. What is this case study all about? This is the Ohio Turnpike Infrastructure Commission. It is a modernization of all of the toll plazas that will be automatically collecting money as people drive through it. It is a long process. It's broken up into 3 contracts. The primary contract is called the integrator. What they are doing is they are installing the new equipment and they are commissioning the new equipment. What our contracts, the East and the West contracts, are doing is they are installing all the new cabling. They are taking out the weight scales in the actual toll plaza, and they are demoing all the old conduit and wire out after the new is up and running. The unique aspects of this project that came to us and why I had to reach out to Autodesk and Build was it's spread out across the state. The East project has 9 toll plazas that they will be doing. The West project has 11 toll plazas. The other unique contractual clause upon this situation is our schedule is not our schedule. Our schedule is mandated by the primary integrator schedule, and that is requiring that each lane must be taken down and turned over from 6 to 9 days each. There is no excuse from saying I had a delay and I just didn't have my materials here. The other thing is each one of those toll plazas has its own liquidated damages for a substantial and a final completion date. How are we going to manage all that? The contractor also was mandated that they needed a single source of truth. There will be no project trailers out on this project. They're working out of trucks as they move from lane to lane, toll plaza to toll plaza. So we needed a single source of truth, that everything could be accessible from a field app device, be it Android or Apple. Currently, we had nothing at the time that this came up, and I had to reach out to my good old friend Alex Butcher with Autodesk. We had beta tested with PlanGrid, but due to the ask of this particular contract, PlanGrid wasn't beefy enough, and BIM 360 just wasn't going to be able to meet all the reaches. So I reached out to Alex, and this is what he came back with. Build was about to be released. He asked me, next slide, please. He asked, what do you need to do and how can we come into this together? We had worked on previous projects, and right now Arcadis has a very special contracting enterprise agreement with Autodesk, which allows us to reach out to them and they collaborate with us and set it up. He said, if you're willing to take a chance on a product that has not gone prime time, I will work with you and we will get it set up to meet all the expectations of the client. So what were we thinking about? First client ask was, I didn't want to manage emails. Can you imagine all the emails that would be coming in as me being the only construction manager on all of these projects, and the emails that would come in for submittals, that would come in for meeting minutes, maybe an RFI question, oh no, the pay app was lost, what'd you do with that change order? I wouldn't have been able to function and I wouldn't have been able to prioritize my work. So the first thing we wanted to do is reduce email. We use that with the modules of the home module, the sheets and files, the transmittal, the submittal, and the meeting module. Later on, in just a minute, Alex is going to tell you how did we custom configure those and how did he help us get that going within weeks instead of months. Risk reduction. That was the big ask from the client. Because these are multiple projects and we can't take down lanes, traffic does not slow down, supply chain issue, we got to keep those trucks moving through the state of Ohio. We were going to use we were thinking out of the box of how we were going to use the submittal module, the schedule module, the forms, and the cost module. Carbon footprint. How many of you from executives upon high are saying, we need to figure out how we are more sustainable, find a solution that we're going to reduce our carbon footprint? Can it be deployable in all projects? We were mandated through Arcadis that all projects must have a sustainable solution. So we're going to tell you how we did this with this module. Okay, so turning it over, Alex, can you please take us through how you helped us configure and solve some of these problems?
Yep, definitely. So like Ann said, she came to me with some pretty unique challenges from her client. Obviously, with the size and the scope of this toll plaza renovation, it was going to require a pretty robust solution. And the big thing is that they didn't want to have to manage all project documents over email. So 3 key pillars are kind of what we decided on. We obviously wanted to deliver all plan sets and project documents in real time to the field without having those be communicated via email. We wanted real-time submittal transparency. Obviously, the antiquated ways of monitoring a submittal log in Excel and handling those approvals via email would be very cumbersome on a project that size. And finally, we wanted a single place for all project executives as well as the ownership group to be on the same page so that way they could maximize their time using the meeting minutes tool. So to kick us off, the project home screen was a huge draw specifically for the OTIC job, specifically because of the size and the scope of that project. Autodesk Build's home screen is a customized dashboard specific to each project team member that allows them to view their work status there in the lower left-hand corner of the image. And that will relay a summary of all open RFIs, all open submittals, all open meeting assignments, as well as issues that are currently assigned to that specific individual. I know I can't be alone in saying that when I still worked in construction, I had 50 emails each morning. A lot of them had actionable items and things that I had to close out that day. Instead of us having to manage that process via email, you can simply assign work to a designated team member within the software. And all of that is consolidated onto this individualized project home screen. Another advantage of this home screen that reduces emails is the recent activity log that you'll see to the right-hand side of your screen. This allows to pull a daily digest for project photos, sheet uploads, project documents, but specifically mentions. One thing Ann is going to drill into later when we start talking about risk management and reducing it by taking things away from the email side of things is when you're mentioned in Autodesk Build, you're notified that there's been a change made to something that you are needing to be aware of. Those mentions really allow you to consolidate and figure out, what do I need to focus on today without having to coordinate through 50 different email threads. One thing Arcadis did really well is they encouraged all project team members and they trained all of their project team members to start their day right here at Project Home, eliminating those first couple of hours of your day where you're just trying to triage those emails that seem to pile up day after day after day. In addition to the home screen, a really big ask from the OTIC side of things was a digital delivery. They didn't want to have to print out plans. They didn't want to have to print out addendums and bulletins and changes. And Autodesk Build allowed the project team to distribute the latest and greatest drawings to all toll plazas, to every field team in real time. What Arcadis is able to do is do a plan review, determine they're ready to go. They will then publish those sheets into the project, which are then automatically distributed to field teams. And then overlay tools allow teams on site to very quickly compare versions of different plans to really verify those changes. You know, obviously, if you're trying to handle plan delivery over email, making sure everybody's CC'd, making sure everybody's on the current set can be a real challenge because inevitably somebody will get left off of that distribution list. By implementing digital delivery of all plan sets, it ensures that single source of truth that Ohio Turnpike was looking for, but at the same time, it's also saved them a lot of money not having to print out plans, not having to print out revisions. And I'm happy to say that OTIC has not printed out a single version set of drawings through the entire life cycle of the project. In addition to the plans, really what was important to OTIC was establishing that single source of truth. And once again, we keep talking about delivering project data over email leads to scattered information. Not everybody's on the same page. And where Build really came in to support OTIC on this mission of a single source is with the Files tab. Something that Anne is going to touch on here in a little bit is going to be around permissioning and how to reduce risk to make sure that certain project documents aren't visible to everybody. But with Build's Files tab, they leverage unlimited cloud storage, meaning they don't have to print out job binders. They don't have to print out project documents and store those, which ultimately saves printing costs. They also don't have to manage the rest of their project documents, things like contracts, their specs, their submittals. They don't have to distribute those via email. They can be rest assured that as long as it's stored within their project here in Autodesk Build, everybody is on the same page. In addition to files, one thing a lot of people really like about email is having that date and timestamp sort of record of when certain project documents have been distributed to other project team members, right? And so with files, not only is there date and timestamp tracking within your folder structure to ensure the last time something was updated, everybody's aware of it. If you have any formal deliverables, that can be leveraged, that you need to have a date and timestamp sort of record for when things were distributed. You can leverage the Transmittals tool. And that's one thing Arcadis has done incredibly well. As you can see here from the slide that we have up, that image out to the right-hand side, anytime a contractor needs to submit a change order proposal, anytime a bulletin is issued on this Ohio Turnpike job, they do not have to distribute that information via email. Instead, what they can do is upload it into their Autodesk Build project, which establishes that single source of truth, and then establish a formal timeline for when projects were documented and delivered using the Transmittals function. Outside of just project, documentation, things like sheets and files, being scattered and being difficult to track via email, I think we can all agree that the submittals on any project, regardless of how big or small, are difficult to track using Outlook, using Gmail, or using iCal. When OTIC and Ann came to me saying, hey, we don't want to have to track submittals on 20 plus toll plazas over email and using an Excel register, we really invested some time into exploring the submittals tool. Arcadis is able to upload their complete submittal log for the entire job into their project. So that way the latest and greatest is always up to date and visible to all project team members. But one thing that really comes up when managing submittals over email is, where is it at? Who currently has it? Who are we waiting on to review and approve it? The submittals tool within Build allowed Arcadis to have visibility and transparency into all of their submittal items to determine what was still needing to be approved, what still needed to be reviewed by a consultant. And really what this did is make sure that not only did we have real-time tracking, but they were able to figure out what the approved submittal was and make sure it was correctly communicated to the contractors, which ultimately will reduce risk over time. And that final pillar, that really big thing that OTIC came to Ann with, and ultimately we had to work out, was how do we provide their executive leadership team, Ann's client, with sort of an up-to-date record of all critical project items that need to be discussed during a weekly meeting. Typically, meeting items, and the way I did it when I was in construction, is we had a long-running Word document. Everything new would get updated in red. Everything old would be in black. And then ultimately, those minutes would need to be distributed to all meeting participants, which ultimately leads to nobody ever actually looking at them. There's no actionable items that can be taken away from meeting minutes. And you run the risk of not including everybody on that email chain. So instead, what Arcadis did is they used the meeting minutes tool within Autodesk Build for those weekly owner progress conversations. They were able to leverage the video conference links, ensuring that nobody had to fly in or drive in for a specific meeting. And it meant that that critical information, stuff that needed to be discussed, was all stored in one single location. Nobody has to go back and search their email to find relevant meeting documents. Nobody has to email meeting minutes out following the closeout of the discussion. And Arcadis is actually able to leverage this tool to assign relevant meeting topics to those specific project team members, which ultimately translates back to that project home screen that we talked about earlier, giving everybody visibility into a single dashboard of everything they're responsible for without having to send 50 or 60 different emails a week. And finally, since we're talking a lot about eliminating email notifications, the last thing I kind of want to wrap up with here is notifications within Autodesk Build. One thing that's really nice about Build is the custom configuration of notifications. Typically if something needs to be done on site, you would drop somebody an email, copy the relevant stakeholders, and then move on from there. Within Build, because we brought so many of Arcadis and OTIC's critical workflows into the software, we needed a way to be able to manage notifications so they could scale accordingly for all 20 toll plazas without bombarding people with notifications that had nothing to do with them. One thing that's really nice about Build, and I think Arcadis did really well, is instead of immediately sending email notices out, they require their team to actively be working in Build, which ultimately updates in real time, meaning you already have the latest and greatest information at your fingertips. But what Arcadis did is they essentially modified all of the modules they're leveraging within the software to sort of a daily digest. So instead of having to filter through 50, 60, 70 emails a day to find out what your relevant issues are, your relevant RFIs are, submittals that you might need to review, instead you get a daily rundown of all critical items that are relevant to your specific scope of work. And one challenge we ran into early on was OTIC and their representatives didn't necessarily need to be notified about every change that happened on the project. And so what we were able to do is actually mute all notifications for those team members. So that way they could access Build being that single source of truth, but they weren't going to necessarily have to go through a notification or a bulletin to kind of get that daily rundown. And ultimately, what all of this was designed to do, reducing those emails, was designed to reduce risk. Because we all know with scattered project information, with everybody not on the same page, you're inherently making your project more risky. So to expand on that and to provide a couple of examples around how email reduction really reduced risk on the OTIC project, I'm going to turn it back to Ann.
Thanks, Alex. That was really awesome. And thanks for showing how you collaboratively helped us deploy a solution for our client and kept this project going. So risk reduction. There are three things. Next slide, please. There are three things we really want to highlight here, and this was kind of the what we were going to hit the high points of this whole session that we were going to talk about. So the first thing we were identified by our client is supply chain risk. Being that we had to turn a lane over between 6 and 8 days, we had to make sure that everything was available. We had to make sure that RFIs were answered. We had to make sure the submittals were approved. We had to make sure that if the material couldn't be approved, it couldn't be achieved, we had a backup plan. How are we going to do this? The next thing was the project schedule. Most people just say, yeah, I actualized it this month, and then they don't think about it until they have to actualize it because they want to get paid in a month. It's not the purpose of a schedule. The purpose of the schedule is that we are all moving to push this schedule and do our jobs when the field needs us to have our jobs done, be it answer an RFI, process that change order, maybe get that sketch out, make sure that submittal has been ordered. I can't tell you how many times I've been in an owner meeting or superintendent says, what do you mean that the job JMF hasn't been submitted? I'm pouring concrete next week. Well, we talk about those things. We calm it down and we come up with a plan. Budget management. This was going to be very challenging on this project, being that there are pay items for everything that's going to be installed on this project. But we have that outside contract that is saying, oh, by the way, I forgot to add 3 cables at every toll plaza. Can you just start installing it now because we're still in this lane and we got to move to the next lane? Well, there's no decision-making opportunity there for the owner. How much is that supposed to cost? How do I even price it? Is that going to impact the schedule? How do we know? We had to have ownership and responsibility as to how are we going to track that and how are we going to keep it in real time. It's moving fast and we had to keep up with the budget. So what are some of the solutions that we came up with that didn't put an extra ask on those people in the field that are trying to get the job built? First thing we did was submittals. This particular contract, and I think a majority of the contracts that are out there on the street today, is the general contractor must come up with a submittal registry that has to be approved by the owner or architect before they can move forward. Well, because the owner was so adamant about that, not only did they have to do it, if they didn't do it within 10 days, there were liquidated damages. In addition to that, the baseline schedule had to be updated and ready to go and in the review process within that 10 days. We also needed them to get their superintendent and their safety plan updated. We wanted to help. Arcadis is here to help. The construction manager, we were brought on to make sure that everything gets taken care of, but we're actually facilitating what the general contractor is trying to do and keep up with that schedule. We created the submittal registry. It wasn't a shove it down your throat kind of thing to the general contractor. What we did is we created a submittal registry, and we were able to create an Excel spreadsheet. We began with the template that will be eventually used to upload that submittal registry into the build. So we're doing work, we're not doing redundant work. We put everything that we found in those specs or in those drawings that needed to be submitted on. And then we had a meeting between the owner, the architect engineers, the general contractors, and his subs if they had a major, like the concrete submittal subcontractor. He was present in that meeting also. And we redlined it. Things that didn't make sense, things that weren't required, things that weren't necessary, or maybe things that there was this specification for equipment, fiber optic equipment. Well, they weren't supplying the equipment, but within that spec, it was the specifications for the Cat6 cable. So we cleared it all up. We redlined it. We made that submittal registry actually usable, and we documented the titles within module. So it'd be easy to find for those guys that are going to be in the field, those guys and gals, they're on their app, they're trying to figure out what submittal or JMF they need for that concrete. They can see it, they can check that ticket, and they can put that in their daily report. They don't have to go searching. It was easily searchable for them. With that, within that meeting that we had where we are redlining that submittal registry, we thought it would be a good time to go ahead and talk about those items. Let's highlight those items that are going to have potential supply chain impact. There are things, everybody's watching the news, you're watching, you're calling your distributor, who better to know? We put together a list of activities that were going to be included in the project schedule that we not only wanted to watch, but we also knew that they had to be the first submitted within the first 30 days. And we lined up the architect engineers that we were going to push those through. We had 14 days to review it, but due to the time of the essence, we were able to prioritize our engineers, and we were pushing through within 7 days. We were getting those big submittals in and out the door. That helped the project. We noticed we had to come up with a pivot plan, and I'll give one example here that everybody I'm sure can resonate. There was a light fixture. It was a light pole. We had to put a new light fixture on it, and we wanted to put in a new pole. The spec had a different specification for the new pole that was going to be in. We realized that pole may not come in for 40 weeks. That could impact the duration of the schedule. We couldn't go out further. So what we did is the architect engineer was directed to make that spec match the existing pole. So our pivot plan will be, if the new pole does not come in, we put the new light fixture on the old pole that has the same template base of bolting it down. And when the new pole comes in, we will replace it. But the project will be finished on time. With our pivot plan, that we were able to have a discussion 30 days after notice to proceed. It calmed down the field, and it created a level of trust and collaboration for the project, setting the tone of how we all were going to operate further down the line. So also what we were doing in the submittal registry is nothing gets submitted unless it comes through the submittal registry. And what do I mean by that? You might want to go back one more slide real quick. Sorry about that. That means your pay application, your change orders, your schedule updates. Because of that little piece of information that Alex gave us earlier, where you can upload 80 different types of file types, that means that guess what? Nobody, the subcontractor and the owner and Arcadis, don't have to spend over $1,000 for a P6 license. That P6 file is uploaded through the submittal registry platform. It goes to the Arcadis schedule analyst. She does her magic on it. She compares it, gives us a report, and we send that over to OTIC, and they approve the schedule to match in line with the pay application. That is the other reason why we're doing it, because the baseline schedule, the real reason we were doing the baseline schedule had liquidated damages on it. If the contractor was able to prove that the baseline schedule was uploaded within that first 10 days of notice to proceed and it was in a review process, they would not be assessed liquidated damages. But how are they going to prove that at the end of the project? Because we have the activities log, because we could see all the revised resubmits that we're going back through, it was very simple for them to prove that they were not to be assessed liquidated damages. It was helping them out. Change order approvals, they're going through it too, because We wanted to be able, during a change order approval process, it's not always as simple as you're going to upload that change order proposal and it's all 100% and that owner just signs off of it. I want to know, a raise of hands in the crowd right now, how many people have ever had that happen? God bless you, and I want to know how you pulled it off, because I've never seen it. That's why we created the change orders need to go through the submittal review process due to that little activity log. You, instead of sending me an email that could be lost, I won't see it for 3 months. Let's say the field superintendent, he needs that change order approved because it's telling him how to pour concrete a different way. But he needs that approved because his project manager says, well, I want to make sure it's signed, sealed, and delivered because I want to get paid for it. So they send an email. They send it to the OTIC. They'll say, at Ann Blanchard, by the way, I need this approved within 2 weeks because our 6-week schedule in our progress meeting that you documented that we were talking about, we're going to start that in 2 weeks. Fine. I send that next one over to my engineer and I said, what's the holdup? And it's that dialogue tracking of, we're keeping everybody honest. We're keeping everybody meeting their contract deliverable dates. And everybody's kind of liking this activity because they're trying to beat each other now. They're trying to do it in less time, which is kind of funny. We have our owner. In fact, our owner is using this build platform better than I think than a lot of other people that are participating in the project. He's loving it because he's knowing he needs to drive his schedule and he's seeing the activity and he's getting answers when we need them instead of waiting to that progress meeting every week and delaying the whole process of getting that approval. So this activity log has really been invaluable as keeping these things moving quickly to try and make that subcontractor successful and not get impacted by liquidated damages. Therefore, I got black when I was talking about this in the progress meeting, but I said, if you don't send it to me in the activity log or you don't send it submittal, I don't see it and it doesn't count. Now they know that we don't take it, you submit it through there and we're going to give it a priority and it's going to happen and we'll get it to you when you need it, comparative to the schedule. So let's talk about this the next slide, please. The schedule. How many people out there are notorious for saying, I'm going to just let my superintendent give the 6-week schedule and he just gets to talk about it. And we're really not paying attention because we're checking our other emails on our other projects instead of paying attention to this progress meeting. And nobody's really engaged to what that superintendent is actually telling us is, I need everything done. Well, it's only a 6-week look ahead. The project schedule is telling us, you know, that lead item, those HVAC units, or let's see that fiber that I know takes 6 weeks to get it. We look at it in that progress meeting in that baseline schedule comparative, and we're like, you know what? I noticed that submittal hasn't gone through. And we start talking about it, and we start talking and creating a plan. Or we have found out then in that conversation of, do you have that submittal? All of a sudden the superintendent might pop up because, oh, by the way, we need to order more. And then we find out the manufacturer doesn't have it and we may need to do an alternate. So we expedite an alternate into that submittal review process. But everybody is now hyper-focused to helping that and have that conversation of what the field needs to stay going on. We kind of already talked about the 30-day notice to proceed, how we use the submittal review process, but this schedule is very important. Everybody is now looking at it because they don't have to worry about a P6 license. They can filter it on what they're really wanting to look at and make sure the guys in the field or the women in the field that we have out there doing those daily observation reports, they are now looking at this and saying, you know what, do I have all those submittals approved? Oh, good. Goodness, let me go look over in the submittal log and see if it's been approved and what was approved. And then that drives better questions in our meetings. And when we talk about meeting minutes, it's just not a secretarial dictation of what everybody was talking about. It's linked to things. That means the field superintendent, when I said, you know what, that's a great question, but I'm not going to give you the answer. You need to give me the RFI. I link the RFI to it for him. All he has to do now is go to the meeting minutes, click on what we were talking about, and everything he needs to do to upload is right there. Single source of truth, single source of entry. He doesn't have to worry about being Mr. Document Control or the people in the field. We are the document control. We make it easy in utility using that module. So moving on from the schedule, daily field reports. And this is the money shot. I can't tell you how many clients now these days are saying, hey, how did you do that? I want to do that in my project. That is slick. We couldn't have done this with an Autodesk project prior to the unfolding of Build. It wasn't possible to link modules and create automation. Arcadis came up with the automation between modules. It was a vision that Alex and I were talking about one day in a conversation before a meeting. This particular client has a daily observation report. They have field inspectors that are out there every day. These field reports must be submitted per toll plaza. I could be getting 4, 5, 6 of these a day. The other nice thing about this field report is that when you open it up in your field device, whatever, if it's an Android, if it's an iPad, a lot of people use the iPads. We even have some Microsoft Surfaces being used out there in the field right now. It didn't matter. They open up their field report. They can take pictures. They don't have to worry about going home after a long day and they've been out there in the rain and the mud of Ohio and downloading pictures and linking documents and then sending this off when they'd rather be at home having a beer and probably kicking back and eating dinner and visiting with their family. They can do that now. That's what they like. They wish we had done this sooner. What this is doing is we created the drop-down menus. We got that approved schedule of values, which each pay item, and we knew the unit cost. Instead of that poor person having to go keep a piece of paper, which they aren't allowed to have paper anymore, with the approved pay items and those numbers, we created a drop-down menu for them in that form. All they have to do is go find the number, gives them the description, they say how much has been installed for that day, send off their report with the photos. Voila, amazing. They're loving it. They don't mind that they need to fill out a different one for each toll plaza every day. Oh, and by the way, he doesn't have to worry about the weather because that form report automatically within Build tells them what the weather is and if it was raining. So we've kind of reduced the fights over, oh, it was a rain day. Well, no, it wasn't because I'm looking at the report right here. You get to see it wasn't raining that day. So, okay. Created a lot of friction when we're trying to close out the projects with these discrepancies. Those have all melted away. But here's the money shot, the automation. Where was that automation? Beginning of slide, I talked about how we know where the budget is within 24, 48 hours. How in the world are we doing that? Nobody can do that, right? Not so true. Didn't take an IT wizard to do this either. This is just a normal, just thinking about how to do it. The way Build is set up, when we put that reference number in there on that field report, the schedule of values has the exact same code for a reference number, an item number. And the schedule of values has a budget for that. And so when that daily report is submitted, it automatically syncs up and it deducts what was installed. So as you can see on the screen, on reference item number 35, 140 feet unit quantity, as soon as that report was submitted in the cost module, that 140 feet was deducted from the budgeted quantity. So my owner calls me up. He says, Ann, are we about to bust on that quantity? Yes, sir, we are. They're installing it faster. But you know where it's really helping us with supply chain issues? We know that the Cat6 cable, the contractor doesn't know until his foreman picks up the phone and says, oh, by the way, I just used my last spool of Cat6. Can you get some more out here tomorrow? How likely is that to happen with these supply chain issues? What we're talking about in those meeting minutes, those wonderful meeting minutes that nobody used to use, but they do now, we link this report. And this report says, I don't want to be in your business. I'm not giving you means and methods, but trending with the daily reports that we're tracking, it looks like the quantity that you had budgeted, you're about to bust it. You're within 200 feet, lineal feet of that Cat6. You might want us to start talking about getting a change order process to increase the quantity, because I'm sure you want to get paid for it. And two, can you reach out to your manufacturer and see that you can get it? And if you can't, let's start talking about getting that alternate approved right now before your superintendent says, I can't do anything because I have no material to work. This is how this project and having everything in a single source of truth has really paid off. So issues tracking. Remember, next slide, please. Remember I was talking about that we're going to shut that lane down to traffic for 7 days, and then it must be back running, 100%, semis, cars, going to see grandma for Christmas, all that needs to keep on happening. Well, we have to do a punch list. And I think any junior contractor out there, nod your heads up or down when I say this. How many times is the biggest concern that that punch list never seems to stop? They keep adding stuff to it and adding stuff to it, and you're never going to get off the job. And all that project manager can feel is that profit margin shrinking as that punch list just keeps on going on and on and on. All right, so to be fair, because we want to get finished and close the books on our projects just like everybody else, we are doing a rolling punch list. We're using the issues module. Here's an example of it up on the screen. So 4 days, definitely after concrete has been poured, majority of the conduits and the cables should be installed. They call out what we've agreed to, and this will come back to our carbon footprint conversation after this, is you don't want the architect and engineer going out there and the owner going out there to write that punch list. We came to an agreement. The field inspector, an independent party, an engineer, does a punch list in the issues tracking log. Everybody can see it. It's got pictures. It's transparent. And it's immediately dispersible, or they can see it on the little iDevice, whatever they're using in the field, and they know what needs to be fixed. And we're doing that with that inspector in the field. The only way it can get closed, because we're going to lock it down when we talk about permissions, the only way it can get closed is if that inspector takes a picture of it and they say that it is recognized as closed. The owner, the one who I said loves Build and wanted the request of everything on there, he can actually look at that picture and say, yep, I agree, and that is officially closed, so that when they are trying to mitigate their liquidated damages, because we don't want to impose liquidated damage, who wants to do all that paperwork, right? At the end of a project, at the end of the day, you just kind of run right off into that sunset. These punch lists are the documentation that, yep, these were the items we agreed needed to be remediated. Yep, here's the picture. It was remediated. They have done everything they need to do. Please give them their certificate of completion on that particular toll class. That stops the liquidated damages. Everybody was happy about that workflow and that process because we were able to use this issue tracking. So the rolling punch list means that we are not delaying those lane conversions. We're not slowing down that other contract. We're not doing any of that. So moving on is permission. Let's talk about permissions just for a minute. I don't know any of you in the field. I'm sure a lot of you have had some type of experience with PlanGrid. Our biggest complaint with PlanGrid and BIM 360 was we can't control the permissions enough for all the people that want to use the platform. I'll go back to that conversation that Alex had where he stated that, we have this unique arrangement. Arcadis has what's called an enterprise level agreement that affords us the opportunities that, let's say our client, OTIC in particular, their budget's strapped right now. I mean, wouldn't you be trying to put in all these new toll plaza automating devices? They really don't have it. And they really don't have the people that are going to configure it for them. That's where Arcadis came in. We came in and they use our licenses. We were able to open it up. We roll out the licenses. After we do that, we configure it to whatever their workflows and their parameters are. Thank you again, Alex Butcher, for all your help with that one. And then we have the permissions. So what was coming as this platform was being rolled out, the safety people within Ohio Turnpike, they wanted access to it. They thought this was cool. Instead of having to drive out there, they could look at all the photos that are being uploaded and say, oh, you know what? Okay, they're being kind of safe. Or, you know what? Maybe I need to go drive by that toll plaza because I don't think the barrier, the traffic control looks good. I just want to take a picture and drive by there. But instead of having to drive by there every day and keep up with it, he's looking in Build. But he really didn't want to see everything. And then the accounting department, this is the big thing that we're seeing. The accounting department wanted to look at those daily reports. They wanted to verify for themselves that on those daily reports, what those field inspectors were saying were approved and were installed. They could cross-check it, QC it to the pay application coming in. They also have the requirement of uploading certified payroll. Certified payroll who, legally we cannot let everybody on the project that has access into Build see those documents. The permission levels is basically 5 permission levels here. There's that viewability, view only, view and download, publish with markups. We like that when they're doing the RFIs. That has worked phenomenally well. And then there's upload. So we can lock down a particular document or we can lock down a particular file. If you look at our file system, there is going to be something in there where they can upload those certified payroll. And we are able to, the accounting people and OTIC, they can verify that it's good and they sign off on that pay application. This is why Arcadis is promoting Build, because of the permission levels that we are able to control based on whatever our client ask is or whatever document needs to be put up there. So with that said, carbon footprint. All right, I promised you, I was going to give you that golden nugget that you can take back to your executives out of this saying, hey, you got your payoff going to AU this year because I figured out on every project we can reduce our carbon footprint. So here's the money shot. Next up, avoiding waste. First thing, everybody wants to talk about, I'm 100% digital. But you really don't want to put a lot of work into it, right? You just don't have time. You're too busy trying to get the project built and deal with all the ruckus that's coming and all that bad weather. Oh, yeah, and then let's just not even talk about the supply chain issues again, right? So back to Alex's point, everything is organized very simply. It's just not everybody's being thrown there. Because of permission control, Arcadis, myself, I am able to basically make sure that those documents are in order so that everybody can find them. That doesn't just become a crazy like kids playroom organized mess. The sheets and projects are always there. The sheets or the version controls are always uploaded. I can't tell you how many times in a meeting we have a superintendent get on, he goes, I need a new detail for that control joint. Can the architect is like, yeah, I can get that drawn up and I'll attach it to your RFI. We can have that done within a couple of hours. We coordinate that again in those meeting minutes and it's all linked. Guess what? That superintendent knows that we promised in that meeting minute we would have that sketch ready for him before the end of the day so that he could start his shift. And don't forget, I'm in Phoenix, Arizona. I'm 3 hours behind. I get to keep working. So he knows that if Ann Blanchard says we're going to have it, she's going to keep working, that when he gets up in the morning and he starts at 4 o'clock in the morning, he's going to have it. Because, I'm remote. I'm in Arizona. I haven't even touched foot in Ohio yet. So he knows that when we finish that RFI, that sheet's going to be uploaded. He can send it out to his sub and boom, that control joint's ready to install the next day, keeping up with his schedule. So that version control, it's always there. He doesn't have to worry about it. He doesn't have to rely on his project engineer, his assistant manager. It's just there and it's ready to go. So we eliminated paper. The other thing is the Ohio Turnpike's like, where are we going to store all this paper in warehouses when we get the closeout documents? They don't want to do it anymore. And they can't even find what they want. And then they can't even use it because it wasn't organized. So their facilities management and their maintenance group, they like this build because it's all organized and they can easily go find it at the end of the day. And the final thing, it's usually a taboo word, but we all know it's true within the construction industry, is let's just say for some unforeseen reason, with all these proactive things that we put in place for the build platform, you're going to go to litigation. If you go to litigation, the owner, the architect, everybody knows the historical timeline right there. It makes it clear. It makes it transparent. Usually, you could go to arbitration and won't even see the inside of a courtroom. And that's what we're trying to do. If it's clear, if it's transparent, if everybody knows what's going on because that email didn't get lost in Johnny's little thing, or if Judy forgot in the field that she just submit that picture that one day because she was doing a field inspection report, it's not lost. It's all here. So the document control. The other thing, remember that warehouse? Who wants to pay for a warehouse full of paper that nobody wants to go and dig through to find a piece of paper? Projects can be managed remotely. Again, I'm in Phoenix, Arizona. This project's in Ohio. This project's spread out across the whole darn state of Ohio. All the architects and engineers are sitting in Cleveland in an office. That done and happy. They're pleased. They don't have to go play in the mud. They don't have to worry about that snow drift or whatever. But they're kind of liking that now because the price of gas is going up and our infrastructure bill still hasn't built all those charging stations across the interstate. So, okay, we're helping the environment in many ways that way. The elimination of email. Can't tell you. The email thing. First time I picked up the phone and called Alex and like, you better find a way that we don't have email, because if I have 150, 200 emails coming at me all day, one, will never attack the right issues, and two, I will go absolutely insane. There's not enough Miss Clairol in the world for that stress every morning. So what did we do? Next slide. Digital documentation. As I said, all the sheets, version controls, right there. Why is this important? I told you at the beginning of the slide, this is how we're closing out the projects within 30 days after substantial completion. Like I said, the as-built have to be processed. The closeout documents, the warranty letters, the certificate of completion, all has to happen 30 days after substantial completion, or the contract gets assessed with liquidated damages. Who wants to be in that? And then he's got to manage 9 or 10 because he's got the east side and the west side. Right now, he's really not at risk. Those version control sheets are already there. The architects, the engineers, they're already looking at them. They're already linked. We already have all the submittals. They're already organized. They already know from that submittal registry, they can start working, and we will probably start talking about it within 35, I'd say 45 days in those progress meetings. We're going to start talking about the documentation that we need for closeout. We're going to start talking about what is that warranty date that needs to be put on those warranty letters. The owner will say what date he would like, and we drive on. And so we are helping keep that project out of liquidated damages. The other thing is, owner no longer wants anything in paper. All those closeout documents, they're going to be coming to them organized and everything. When we shut down the build platform and give them their drive, they can keep in their warehouse or in some safe somewhere to the end of days to come. Field reports are all there too. They're digital. All those pictures, it's all right there. Oh, and there's a nice feature that fit Mr. Alex Butcher. That nice picture we have, the Ohio Turnpike project at the beginning of the job. Every photo that gets put into this platform is already geolocated. Everybody was told at the beginning of the project, put the geolocation on their phone, their iPad, their Surface. When they take a picture, it's geolocated. So right there at the end of the job, we have photo documentation of evolution of what happened at a particular site, right photo document at the end of the job, and people can go by left. Facility maintenance can see what was underground or what was installed above ground, and it is a resource for them to use beyond the contract duration. Next slide. That photo documentation we were just talking about, see all those little dots? All those little dots are where people have taken pictures. Increase that timeline, which you can see on the right side of your screen right now. That is a historical documentation at that particular location of everything that took in place. Invaluable, invaluable to me. That is how I'm working real time with those people in the field. They call me and have a question, I can look at what's going on. We have an engineer, let's say, a couple days ago, they had a massive amount of rain out in the field. It flooded one of the entries. It wasn't designed to flood. Those pictures were immediately there. The engineers in Cleveland were looking at it. 2 days, we turned around a resolution and kept up before they had to mobilize and demobilize to fix it because they're going to regrade it. It was all taken care of because of those photos and that feature within Build project. So we are able to reduce that fuel consumption. PMs are no longer having to travel out there all the time. They're working real time. This feature also, you can put 360 photos in there. You can have video. We have video that is uploaded sometimes when they want a video condition out there. This is reducing fuel. Didn't do that calculation to you. So what's the money shot? Say, all right, Ann, I've listened to you for 30 minutes. Really give me something I can take back to my boss and justify me coming to AU this year. This is it. Reducing those emails, we just calculated conservatively, you're getting about 30 emails a day. And we all know that's a very light calculation. With the 33 team members right now on Build, and they not being able to send emails, we are going to be reducing the carbon emissions of about 30,000 pounds. That resonates. That's the money shot. This is a sustainable solution. This is easy. Not only does it increase productivity, not only does it bring the best of your resources available to the team, no matter where they're located, not only do you have the photo documentation that everything is organized and instantaneously, but right there, no more email, get to enjoy your coffee in the morning, and you just helped reduce the carbon footprint for your company. Thank you, everyone, and let's open up the floor for questions.